New England Patriots lose 6-0 to drop to 2-10. And I know we're supposed to be excited about this, right? We're tanking. We lost another game. We're one step closer to bringing in a Caleb Williams or a Drake May or Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver. The future is looking bright for the Patriots because they put together the worst offensive performance perhaps I've ever seen. And, you know, it's really hard to watch because the defense is really good. Like, I was not buying into the defense too much these last few weeks because look who you went against, right? You went against the New York Giants with the Tommy DeVito, and then you have the Gardner Minshew, Indianapolis Colts, and then I forgot who came before that. Well, Washington, yeah. So you're going against these offenses that are nothing special, and the defense is for the most part doing their job, but you're like, all right, you know, you're going to go against some Mahomes or someone else, and you're going to be exposed. But this Chargers offense, yes, I know their receivers are a bit limited when you get beyond Keenan Allen, but they still have some explosive weapons. They still have Austin Eckler, and they have Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and defense did their job. They only gave up 6 points, and you're doing this without Matthew Judon. You're doing this without Christian Gonzalez, and you're seeing guys like Miles Bryant step up. Mac Wilson, really, just the last few games, has really stepped up and established himself. J.C. Jackson had perhaps his best game as a New England Patriot this season. He looks back to form, and you sit there and you go, all right, you bring most of these guys back next year. You know, you're probably going to lose Josh Uche. You're probably going to lose Kyle Duggar, which I don't think is a very big deal. I don't think it's as big of a deal as other people think it is. I think you got to figure out free safety, and there's plenty of options there at strong safety, but you bring most people back next year, and this defense is a Super Bowl contending defense. The problem is the offense just can't do anything, and Bailey Zappe is not going to be the surge that gets you there. So I'll get into Zappe in a minute, but let's just go over the Patriots and their various drives. So it was punt, fumble, punt, 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 punt. End of the first half, punt, punt, turnover on downs, turnover on downs. Bailey Zappe, not a great game. They made some big plays, particularly on the ground, but as is often the case when you watch this Patriots offense, they get into the red zone and then they turn it over, or the offensive line just blows it. You know, Trent Brown, Michael Onwenu, who have played fairly well at tackle, they get into the red zone and for some reason they crumble. And I get it. You had Khalil Mack out there, but this was not a good Chargers defense. This was a defense that, you know, I don't really care who's playing quarterback. You better score at least 10 points against this type of defense, and that would have been enough. That would have been enough for the Patriots to beat a not very good Chargers team coming into Foxborough, cold, rainy, sloppy weather, the ball slipping out of people's hands. You're a much better running team, at least on paper, than the Chargers, and you still couldn't win this game. And look, the Patriots had 148 yards rushing. Now, 39 of those yards came on a big single chunk play to Tyquan Thornton, which put them in a position, and of course they blew it getting into the red zone. But Zeke, 17 carries after Stevenson got hurt, 52 yards, and then Ramondre Stevenson, he did go down with an injury. Hope he's better soon. I just say get healthy for next year, frankly, but he had 9 carries for 39 yards. They even had Ty Montgomery in there for a carry at one point without Stevenson out there. But Bailey Zappe, 141 yards, 13 to 20, 25 passing. Did not turn the ball over, but perhaps should have. But it's really tough because, again, this is one of the better Patriots defenses we've seen, and it's really starting to come together in the same way it came together in 2018 with that defense that ultimately helped them win the Super Bowl with Tom Brady's last season. The problem is you're on the other end on offense and you can't do a damn thing. So look, the silver lining is heading into next season You don't have to do that much on defense. You just bring most everyone back except for Uche and maybe Duggar, and you get Judon healthy, you get Christian Gonzalez healthy, and already you have probably a top 5 NFL defense. So you devote all your resources in the offseason to rebuilding this offense, addressing the quarterback position, addressing the receiver, reinforcing that offensive line, at least getting a bridge tackle that you can develop if you're going to bring Brown and Owenu back, and maybe bring in another guard, add some depth there. And look, this team can have a really quick rebuild, a really quick turnaround, but the way it's looking on offense right now, they were missing Demario Douglas, and he's the only receiver on this team that can create separation. And it's good to see Devontae Parker make some contributions. He had 4 catches for 64 yards. And, Hunter Henry didn't do much. Juju Smith-Schuster, picked up a fumble, which was good, but was basically useless out there. Jalen Reagor had 1 catch for 11 yards. And then Tyquan Thornton can't do anything as a receiver. He had a great run because he's fast, but that was all you get out of Thornton, and I think it's fairly certain at this point he's a lost cause, just in year 2 as a second-round pick. Really sad to see, but this is the offense Bill Belichick constructed, and you hope things will be better in the offseason, and I want to see them try to experiment a little, because Bailey Zappe is, let's make this clear, Bailey Zappe is not the guy, okay? 13 to 25, 141 yards. He played much better, granted, in the second half against the Chargers than he did in the first half. But right out of the gate, you see Zappe throwing behind his receivers. These are throws that even Mac Jones makes. Easy, 5-10 yards throws. He's not leading the receivers. He's throwing behind them. So there were a lot of drops early because of that. He got it together a little bit in the second half. Certainly had a strong start to the third quarter, but can't really scramble out of the pocket, make those throws on the run that you see NFL quarterbacks make. And he had to take a lot of sacks. His offensive line did not help him out. He ended up taking 5 sacks throughout the game. Yeah, he had a rating of about 69. Didn't turn the ball over, but there were plenty of plays where he probably should have. And I think the biggest issue with Zappe is he makes, it's not that he doesn't make the right read. You saw late in the game he threw it to Hunter Henry. He's just late with it, and maybe he just needs a little bit more experience, and he will get better at that. I don't think Zappe's a lost cause. I think he's a good number 3 on the depth chart for a decent NFL team, but he's just a little bit late on those reads, and that's why Hunter Henry, who was open for a second, was no longer open when the ball reached him late in the game. And that's why he's throwing behind his receivers. He can take all the first-team snaps. It doesn't matter. He's very limited. He's somehow less athletic with his legs than Mac Jones. He has a better arm than Mac Jones, but he's delayed in the reads relative to Mac Jones, so he's seemingly less accurate, even though he may not actually be. But there are no good options here. I say, and I've been saying this all season long, since about 10 minutes into the Dallas Cowboys game, that the Patriots should give Malik Cunningham a chance. Put together a simplified game plan. Rumor was going into this game they had some packages designed for Malik Cunningham. Well, he didn't see any playing time today, even though he was number 2 on the QB depth chart. Mac Jones, although he was in the active roster, he did seem to be the third quarterback there, wasn't really warming up before offensive series. He basically just sat down there or stood on the sideline the whole game. So I don't think we're going to see Mac the rest of the year. They'll probably ride it out with Bailey another few weeks, maybe, and then maybe you give Malik Cunningham a try. I say you do it right away, see what you got there, because who knows, maybe Malik Cunningham is athletic enough that you go, wow, okay, if we have some weapons and a little bit more protection, this is a guy we could work with. And maybe we don't address the quarterback position in round 1. We get a Marvin Harrison Jr., one of those really good tackles that are probably going to go in the top 10. You do that, and then you get, maybe Jaden Daniels falls, maybe Penix or Bo Nix falls to the second round. Then you get one of those guys, and then you develop them alongside Cunningham with an offseason. You put Bailey Zappe at third string or do something like that. But at some point, you got to see what you got with him, right? I mean, he is taking quarterback snaps in practice. He is number 2 on the depth chart. And I think it's safe to say Bailey Zappe is not the guy at this point. I don't think the Patriots are going to do that heading into a quick turnaround Thursday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You probably give it to Zappe in that scenario, but we see a similar performance that we saw today, even though, again, Zappe was a little bit better in the second half. But those limitations get exposed against Pittsburgh. And then you got a week and a half to prepare for Kansas City, a game you're going to lose anyway. Why not try it out with Malik Cunningham there? But Bailey, good to see him out there and good to see him not turn the ball over, but there are so many limitations out there, and maybe he can correct it with time, with a little bit more experience on the field, but this guy is nothing more than a low-level backup, probably a third-string quarterback. And this is the state of the organization now. I mean, the New England Patriots are not filling seats. You looked at Ticketmaster 35 minutes before the game. I posted this on my Twitter. There were tickets, bottom level, lower level, 11th row, 11 rows from the field, which is really, you don't want to be in the front row. When you go to an NFL game, you want to be a little higher up so you can see the game better. The 11th row is probably perfect. There were 11th row, lower level seats, 35 minutes for the game, going for $10 at Gillette Stadium. Mind you, those seats, week 1 against Philadelphia Eagles, the Tom Brady ceremony game, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm guessing going for at least $800. And even when you think this is a competitive team, I mean, those are $500, $600 tickets. Going for $10, 35 minutes before the game. What's the point of even selling the tickets at that point? I mean, are you making any money after Ticketmaster takes all the seller's fees? Robert Kraft, I don't think we ever even saw him all game. Was he even at the game? CBS didn't show him once. I get it. It was cold and rainy, but, you know, he sits in the luxury box, is the owner's box. He's going to stay dry. They didn't even show Kraft. Maybe he just asked the networks, hey, don't show me. This is embarrassing. Maybe that's part of the reason they flex the Patriots at a Monday night against Kansas City with Taylor Swift perhaps coming to town. Robert Kraft probably asked the NFL, hey, I don't want this embarrassment going on national television. We have 2 other primetime games coming up. I don't want to deal with this. And then you look at the crowd late in the fourth quarter. This is a 1-score game. It's 6-0. Patriots have to march down the field, get into the end zone, and they win the game. And you're seeing half the stadium full. Or half empty, depending how you want to look at it. I'm more of an optimistic person. But you just think how far this organization has fallen just in 2 months. There was so much optimism going into this season. You know, Mac Jones has a real offensive coordinator. Defense, you have everyone back and you're bringing in Christian Gonzalez. Kendrick Bourne, he's not in the doghouse anymore. He's contributing right away. Running game, you got Zeke now. You got Ramondre Stevenson, perhaps your best skill player. Demario Douglas looks to be a steal, one of the steals of the draft. And seemingly you have a pretty good offensive line when healthy, right? You got Trent Brown, Owenu, Cole Strange going into year 2, a first-round pick, David Andrews. Figure out what you got to do at the right side at right tackle. Took him forever to move Owenu over there, but there was a lot of optimism. You got Gesicki, you got Hunter Henry. Yeah, not a lot of star players, but enough to make you go, okay, this is an elite defense, and we have probably a well-coached offense. That's not what ended up happening, and it all started with the offensive line crumbling. It started with, I've been saying nothing but great things about the defense this whole video, but defense struggled early on, particularly on 3rd and long, gave a lot of big chunk plays that cost them a couple of games. And then you have Mac Jones dealing with pressure, can't get a running game going, doesn't have receivers other than Douglas and Bourne occasionally that can create separation. His confidence is shot, and you just see slowly over time this quarterback who finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting 2 years ago. Just a completely different version. He doesn't even look like Mac Jones anymore. The Mac Jones we saw at Alabama, rookie Mac Jones with Josh McDaniels, he looks like a different player. He looks like he has a different face. You see his body language. You can see the confidence in his face. It's just not there. And then Bailey Zappe, was a little bit smug this week, it looked like, in media interviews, and excited to have his shot. Can't put up a single point against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. You lose on a field goal last week to the New York Giants with your 4th round pick at kicker. Misses a chip shot, 35-yard field goal to lose the game against one of the worst teams in the NFL. Lose to the Commanders. They had a great game against the Buffalo Bills. That was fun. Turns out the Bills aren't that good either, as we've seen the last few weeks. Maybe you beat the Jets the last week of the season, but are you picking this team? Maybe Kenny Pickett will be out next week, but you're still picking the Steelers next week. You're picking the Chiefs. Broncos are red hot. You're probably picking them. Picking the Bills. And then, I don't know, you may be going against Aaron Rodgers the last week of the season. I don't see this team winning a game the rest of the year. And, yeah, we should celebrate that. We're probably going to get the number 1 pick if that's the case. Although Carolina's that bad. They may end up getting the number 1 pick. But, man, it's really depressing to see what's become one of the highest value organizations, not just in the NFL, but in professional sports over the last 20 years, just to continue to crumble. Now, Robert Kraft has a good reputation. The Patriots have fans all over the country. They are not just a regional team anymore. They are a national team. And as I said at the top of this video, they have an elite defense at this moment. You don't have to bring Duggar and Uche back, but you bring everyone else back, and you're back there next year, and you're probably even better. So you devote all your resources to, they have $100+ million in cap space next year. You devote all your resources to bringing in an elite offensive lineman, an elite receiver, doing well in the draft, dressing quarterback, and you can turn this thing around literally in by the end of April, suddenly this is a contender in the AFC East. I really, truly believe that. You can turn around this offense by bringing in the right pieces with the amount of cap space, with their good draft picks. There's a lot of hope, but as of right now, this team is just an embarrassment. And Robert Kraft feels it when they're not even showing him on national television in the owner's box. He may not have even been at the game, and you're seeing empty seats before the game, in the middle of the game, and certainly in the final minutes. And look, it's going to be a fun offseason because there's a lot of uncertainties. We'll probably have a new GM, certainly, probably a new head coach, and a good draft pick. But right now, I thought last week was the rock bottom. 0 points against one of the worst defenses in the league. And then seeing your defense shut down Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, a really dynamic offense, and having nothing to show for it. Really just embarrassing for the Patriots. And I hope there is a lot of reflection coming out of this game, and we see Malik Cunningham, we see the Patriots try things they wouldn't try because what do you have to lose at this point? But we'll get to the offseason eventually, and we'll have a little bit more fun there. But right now, the product on the field is not very good. So short week this week. We got a Patriots reaction video coming Thursday night after they inevitably lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll be back there for some post-game coverage. In the meantime, take care.